Should they? Are you ready? There's 2 people. Oh, do you need one of those?
Yeah, I don't have one. I get you.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Peggy Pigeon, and I will be serving as the worship associate today. Whether you're attending online or in person, I am glad you have chosen to join us for worship. A special welcome to any visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you're joining us online, you are encouraged to create a YouTube account to sign into when you attend online. It'll give you access to the comment feature on YouTube. You can use comments to share joys and concerns that will be lifted up in worship, or say hello to other online attendees. Those in the sanctuary are invited after the service to go down to the common room in the basement for coffee hour. Today is our annual Lemon Sermon. Our speaker will be our own William Tull. He'll tell you more about himself once he begins to speak. And he will be representing the unique idea begun by Dr. Henry Lemon, who advocated that the laity of the church have the opportunity to give a sermon. The motto of the Lemon Sermon is, "We all have a sermon in us." We look forward to hearing from Bill. Each week, we also acknowledge that the First Unitarian Church of Omaha occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha and Oto, Missouri tribal nations, whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We would also like to express our respect to the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, the Santee Sioux tribe of Nebraska, and over 170 other tribes represented within the Omaha area. We recognize their presence, and we aspire to work with them to resolve the issues of poverty, displaced children, and murdered and missing Indigenous women, the MMIW. I have one quick announcement to make sure that we get it in today. The announcement is this coming Saturday, join the Lincoln and Omaha Unitarians, and we will experience, learn, and discuss the 8th principle journey, beloved community. These sheets of paper with the information are outside the door. Those of you that are online, you can go to the church calendar to find out more about it. And you will meet first at the Durham Museum's photo exhibit on DeWitte, Nebraska, and learn about the largest and longest lasting African American settlement in rural Nebraska. They've arranged a guided tour of the Malcolm X Foundation, and after lunch, gathering at Second Unitarian Church to explore together what it looks like to build beloved community in our congregations. So we don't want to miss that. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. All right, we're going to light the chalice, and Christina Noriega will be up here to light the chalice. It is a symbol of our faith, and as the chalice is lit, I invite you all to join in the chalice lighting words. You'll find this in the order of service. If you'll say it along with me: spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Thank you, Christina. And our call to worship: we are glad you're here. If this is your first time here or your 101st time, we are glad you're here. If you carry the weight of the weary world on your shoulders, or you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad you're here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you're here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we are glad you're here. If you sing like angels or mumble behind the hymnal, we are glad you're here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you're here. And the opening hymn is in the gray hymnal. It is number 188. It is around. We'll have two leaders in front. I'll let William know. Okay.
Let's do one's over here and two's over here, and we've got some leaders that are going to help you when it's time for you.
Oh, we got the children. It's time for all ages. Any children are invited forward. I tell you what, Christina Strong is unable to come and announce this video for you because either she has to bilocate or she has to miss something. So, thank you for laughing. So, so we have a video, and it's about the first pyramid. And Oliver will get it started. Thank you guys for coming.
Hey guys, be quiet please, because I'm in peace. Kids Black History! Hey guys, I'm Bea. Welcome back to another episode of Kids Black History! Today guys, we're learning about a genius in history.
Wow, Raya, a real genius in history. So exciting.
Guys, the genius that we're learning about came from ancient Egypt, thousands of years ago. His name was Imhotep, which means he who comes in peace. Hey guys, be quiet please, because I'm in peace. I know you want to hear more about this absolutely famous genius, but first I need you to do one thing. Make sure you smash the thumbs up and subscribe the button down below. And 5, 4, 3, who's countdown guys? 2, 1, subscribe! Welcome to the KBH family! I'm a genius family! Guys, Imhotep was so important in ancient Egypt and was known as a high priest and the world's first polymath.
A polymath? What's that, Raya?
Well guys, a polymath is a multi-genius, which is someone who knows about lots of things. Imhotep was born and lived in the 27th century BC, which was a very long time ago, guys. He was so special that people believe he was a god of many things. In particular, Imhotep was named God of Healing, Medicine. What? God of Healing and I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna have some medicine. Temples were even built to honor Imhotep. If people were sick, they would sleep near his temple and hope to become healed. Imhotep was most known to be an architect and the creator of the first known monumental building made of stone. This building is called the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. Take a look at this building, guys. It's super amazing and whoa! I can't even say a word. Yeah. The outside actually looks like steps. Look, steps, steps, steps.
So what is an architect?
An architect is someone who decides the building and how it looks. Architects decide on the side and the shape of the building. They also decide what the material the building will be like. The Step Pyramid was inspiration for the awesome pyramids of Giza. Before Imhotep designed the Step Pyramid, pharaohs of Egypt were buried in mastabas, which were flat-top structures like this. Imhotep was not just an architect, guys. He was also a doctor, engineer, accountant, teacher, and vizier. In addition to this, guys, he was also a writer and wrote medical scrolls. People believe Imhotep wrote the ancient Egyptian medical text, which is now known as the Edmund Smith Papyrus. In the book, it talks about 48 injuries, how to heal them. Statues of Imhotep shows him as a man who is very smart and can read. He is designed with a scribe of papyrus in his lap, which shows his superior intellect. Take a look at this statue that shows Imhotep. Check out the scroll, guys. I think we should take a trip to Egypt to look at the brilliant Step Pyramid created and designed by Imhotep. You want to come with me, guys? Great, let's go! But first, we need to pack to Egypt because it's very hot, isn't it? So, all we need is some water, so pack it in your bag. You can just do invisible. What else do we need? We also need food. We definitely need a watch. So let's put our watch on. And now we're ready to go. Let's go, guys. Travel to Egypt. Wow, guys. Here we are at the Step Pyramid. It is so amazing. And it looks like the Step Pyramid. I'm going to have a little bit of some water because we're getting a bit fast. Right, let's head back to the studio, guys. What an amazing building that was, guys. That actually looks like a step pyramid. Well, unfortunately, we ran out of time. Make sure you smash the thumbs up and subscribe the button down below. And thanks for watching. Kiss, love, history. And make sure you check out all the other episodes on Kiss Like History and their family. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye, guys.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Well, now I want to go to Egypt. So, in honor of our beloved community, International Trans Day of Visibility, Carol Ramsey will speak.
Good morning. Transgender Day of Visibility. Do I sound okay? I'm not used to being up here. Okay. Transgender Day of Visibility was founded on March 31st, 2009 by Rachel Crandall, a social worker and a trans activist who had said that she became depressed every year during the Transgender Day of Remembrance service, which memorializes the trans people who were murdered in the previous year due to transphobia. She wanted to create a day to celebrate the living, to recognize the gifts of transgender people, who are our family members, our friends, and our community. The Trans Day of Visibility is now primarily focused on efforts to combat discrimination and fight anti-trans legislation. On Friday, March 31st, just this Friday, several hundred Central High students walked out to protest the anti-trans bills in the unicameral, specifically LB 574 and 575. LB 574 would prevent, here we go. LB 574 would prohibit hormone treatment, puberty blockers, and surgical procedures for individuals under 19. LB 575 would prevent trans students from using bathrooms and from playing on sports teams that align with their gender identity. These bills are very disturbing and very concerning. Due to these bills in Nebraska and across the nation, many trans youth have reported high stress, sadness, fear, increased depression, and in some cases, suicidal ideation. I am so grateful that our congregation has a very active Side with Love social justice team that has been working on opposing these anti-trans bills in the unicameral. We are very fortunate and I'm very grateful to have our wonderful minister, Reverend Sherry Woodbury, and also Reverend Juniper Meadows, who's the minister at Second Unitarian and who is a trans woman, as they are very strong advocates for trans rights. I have been a member of this church for over 30 years, and I feel very fortunate to be a member of such an open-minded and supportive congregation. I know that some of you have written online testimony and emailed your senators or called them to state your opposition to these harmful bills. If you haven't had a chance to do so, I would ask you to consider advocating for our trans youth. Thank you. And now for the choir. Thank you.
Well, I guess it'd look a little, self-congratulatory if I thanked the choir and told them they did a good job. So it's time for the community offering. Every week we take up an offering in support of our liberal religious values. Half of the loose currency in the offering plate is donated to a cause with a local presence, which advances important principles of Unitarian Universalism. Those on YouTube may choose to donate directly to the organization online. Our organization for April is YES. As you know, that stands for Youth Emergency Services, which is a shelter for youth in the Omaha area. You can learn more about YES at www.yesomaha.org. Okay. We're going to share our joys and concerns, and thankfully Colin McDonald is here, and he will read those items which have been submitted in advance and items that have been submitted this morning. Thank you, Colin.
From Sarah Copeland, she says that she returned many condolence cards and notes, keeping her family in love, care, and thoughts. She says, I deeply appreciate each of them and the community at First U. And from Lynn Thompson, thank you to everyone who made the memorial service for Janet West such a special event. To Sarah Voss for running the service. For Donna and the music. For Dan Sullivan for his good words about Janet's big influence at UNO and dedication to the union and to the caring team and helpers who worked so hard and made the common room and reception amazing. It was such a good reflection on First UU and on Janet, one of the very special members.
That's it. Thank you, Colin. All right, this is the time where we kind of relax and set ourselves into a more contemplative mood. I have a spring meditation. I do not know who the author is. So if you would, close your eyes and relax your body and breathe slowly. And imagine that you're outside lying down on the earth, and it's a lovely early spring day. You may smell the damp earth, or flowers, or leaves. You become aware of the earth beneath your body, and you feel the cool breeze blowing by, and allow yourself to become in tune with the rhythms of nature. Notice the warmth of the sun on your face. Imagine that warm golden light being absorbed into your body. Feel the light of the sun warming your head and face a little at a time, just as the earth is being warmed back up. As the light warms your body, feel it connecting to the ground beneath your body as well. Imagine this warmth spreading a golden glow, journeying down your body all the way to your feet. Feel as if your entire body has been infused with the warmth and the light of the returning sun. Feel your connection to the earth. You imagine that warmth growing and spreading from your body to the ground, visualizing those awakening roots and seeds and other life just below the surface. Feel the stability and the security of the earth beneath you, and peacefully relax for a few more moments. Before Bill gets up to speak, we have a reading by Carol Ramsey, written by Jude Geiger.
Teach us to remember our history. Though we cannot make amends for what has come before, may we learn from those ways, never to repeat them in our lives today. May we develop new ways of relating to neighbor and stranger without violence or coercion, deceit or greed. Mother of grace, help us to find a sense of humility where we have privilege and strength where we face oppression. In our struggles, may we learn compassion, and in our power, may we learn temperance. As a community of faith, may we be a safe harbor in a world that is often harsh towards difference. Challenge us to use our presence as a healing force for justice and equity, knowing that although we have come far in the civil rights struggles of our times, there are many people still left behind. And the work of building the beloved community is just as pressing as ever before.
All right, thank you, Carol. And now we will hear from William Tull, and he will present our annual Henry Lemon Memorial Sermon.
Good morning. Okay. Well, words were just said about our liberal, progressive philosophy in this church. So the talk I'm about to give, in a way, feels like I'm preaching to the choir, which I literally am preaching to the choir. But nevertheless, it's a message that has been roiling in my brain for the last 6 months or so. And when Mary Kay asked me to give the speech, I thought, okay, this is my chance to say what what I feel about this subject. And so here we go. But before I do, I'd like to start by giving a shout out to Jamie Alexander. And I hope you're watching Jamie today because we owe him quite a bit. He's a patient of Bill's at Bill's dental practice and had been telling Bill about the church for quite a while. And when I moved to Omaha from San Francisco and really didn't have many friends or acquaintances other than Bill's, Bill brought me here and I liked it. So here I am now. And years later, I'm giving you this speech. So I'd like to start with a little story. In 1968, I began my freshman year of college at San Francisco State University. Now, those of us who were functional at that time certainly remember the political activism and protest, some of it violent, that defined that era. Anyway, during my first semester at college, the newly formed Black Students Union was advocating for a Black Studies department as a separate discipline in the college curriculum. The college administration refused to consider it. Their intransigence on this issue culminated in a semester-long protest that effectively closed the school down. Needless to say, after much strife, much of which was regrettable, in the end, Black Studies came to San Francisco State. During the turmoil of that semester, I asked myself what the real problem was. College is a place of higher learning. Yet someone, somewhere, felt that learning the history of Africa, excuse me, this gets me upset. Sorry, folks. Have anyone seen John Boehner speak? When he gives a talk, he starts to cry. I do the same thing, and it's very embarrassing. So let me, okay. Someone somewhere felt that learning the history of Africa, the birthplace of humanity, which includes obviously the people that live there, that history was unworthy. Now, what was the problem and why? Of course, growing up in the 60s, even at 18 years old, I knew why there was resistance to Black Studies Department in a Reagan-governed state. But what I didn't know was much about Black history itself. Could I have read more on Black history before then? Yes. And was that my individual responsibility? Yes, it was. If I wanted to know something, it was my responsibility to read about it. And I really did have to take that responsibility on, or should have, because none of it was told to me in public school. Zero. In regards to the victims of the diaspora, we know that it was a practice of slave owners to eradicate the culture of the enslaved in order to create and perpetuate their exploitation. This practice of cultural decimation and enforced illiteracy had pernicious effects. I know people, nice people, friends of mine and acquaintances, other Black people, who really don't like themselves. They think deep down that there's something wrong with them. Some women don't find themselves attractive as they don't feel that they fit the European standard of beauty. And sometimes Black men don't help with that because they too are victims of the same brainwashing. Further, many are ashamed of their African heritage, and in their shame and tacit acquiescence of insufficiency, have accepted their second-class citizenship. In other words, many people are not woke about themselves. And it should come as no surprise that if a person is told either explicitly or implicitly that you are inferior, lazy, and stupid, people end up either believing it to some extent or becoming resentful and hostile, and perhaps, as in my case, incredulous, and probably a little bit hostile. In 1968, I would have been quite hostile about this subject. Historically, racism and prejudice have been fueled by colonialism, slavery, and the idea that certain races are inferior to others in order to justify their subjugation. Today, while slavery has officially ended, and I'm saying officially, racism persists due to the various societal structures and biases that perpetuate discrimination and inequality in our society, and the belief in the lie that minority people are going to share, that is, take something from the white majority, i.e., their share of political and economic advantage. the perpetuation of discriminatory laws and practices, the institution of onerous and targeted new laws and practices are attempts to prop up the status quo. Now, as I look out at you, all of you, I imagine that many, if not most of you, know quite a bit about your individual family backgrounds. Most of you know what country your ancestors are from. This is embarrassing. Many of you have relatives in Europe you're acquainted with or at least are aware of. And moreover, you know or generally know a lot about the history of your own ethnic group, or at least that your ethnic group has a history, whether you're acquainted with it or not. And knowing your history and celebrating your culture is important because knowing our personal or familial history, can contribute to our sense of identity and self-esteem. Learning about the contributions our ancestors made to society can give us a sense of pride and connection, and as Sherry put it last week, a sense of belonging. I know this personally because I remember as a young man having an intense desire to know my family history and to know, this is so embarrassing, and to know who I am and who I am in the context of my family history and in the context of American history. Now, I am fortunate in that I do know some of my family history, and I admit it strengthens me. I'm lucky, as some of my family were freemen in the early 1800s, so I do know a bit about my family from letters, photos, and sketches. And for whatever reason, my people left their current circumstances in those days to seek their fortune in the West before, during, and after the gold rush, as did many other Americans. While they traveled to what they hoped would be a better life, and in many ways life was better in California, still the lifestyle they found in San Francisco was not utopic by any means. When they arrived there, they encountered discrimination and schooling, jobs, and housing. My great-great-grandfather fought to have his children, again, enrolled in San Francisco public schools and eventually succeeded in enrolling them. But it was a battle. Now, I could regale you with stories of my family, what they went through during all of those years, but that's for another day, and that's not the point of this talk. The point is that I know something about my background. That, in and of itself, may not seem unique to you, but there are millions, of African Americans of the diaspora who don't know much about their ancestors at all. And that's a pity, because people who don't know their backgrounds can often feel disconnected from the past and disconnected from the present. And without an understanding of family history, it can be difficult to appreciate where you come from and how your ancestors and relatives shaped your life. And in some cases, not knowing your family background can also lead to feelings of isolation and alienation, which can have negative effects on mental health and well-being. Now, I have a new term that while I was writing this, I came up with this: cultural negation. Now, if anyone has heard this before, then it's not, then I didn't make it up, or I got it from somewhere. But anyway, cultural negation was achieved in many ways. One way was by separating families and communities so that slaves couldn't practice their culture together. Another method was through forced conversion to Christianity, in which slaves were often taught that their African traditions were savage or heathen. Slave owners would also forcibly suppress African cultural practices such as dancing, singing, and drumming, which often had spiritual or religious significance in African culture. Additionally, it was common for slave owners to forbid slaves from learning to read and write, which made, of course, difficult for them to pass on cultural history and traditions of their ancestors to future generations. And as a result, after a few generations, Southern white slave owners were successful in dehumanizing millions of people and hugely successful in creating a permanent underclass or source of cheap labor. Today, thanks to the efforts of certain academics and the history-minded, and to the persistence of historical activists, more people know more about Black history and culture. But how many people, Black people and white people, all of us, really know about the great civilizations of Africa? How many Caucasians know about the origins of ancient Egypt, about the kingdom of Kush, located in now modern-day Sudan? The kingdom of Kush was a significant political and cultural power in Africa for more than 1,000 years. Carthage, which is I'm putting in, but everyone knows about Carthage. That's not going. Which was a regional power in North Africa and the Mediterranean. The Kingdom of Axum, which is in Ethiopia, which is now Ethiopia, and was a major trading power and played a significant role in the spread of Christianity in Africa. And the Kingdom of Ghana, located in what is now modern-day Mali and Mauritania. The Kingdom of Ghana was a major center of trade and became one of the wealthiest empires in West Africa. Mansa Musa, one of the Mali chiefs, was the richest man to ever live. Shaka Zulu was one of history's great generals. But it doesn't pay for the establishment to have whites in the mainstream know Black history either. For it is for a complete, unbiased account of the origins of Western civilization were commonly known, the foundations of the concept of white supremacy would vaporize. If we keep up on current events, and I know we do since we're an informed congregation, the whitewashing of American history is going on still today. We have only to look at Florida's current attempts to edit American history so that it is palatable to the post-Reconstructionists. Historically, reasons why Black history was excluded from the curriculum of Western academics is due to the impact of racism on mainstream education. Additionally, Western academics tended to see history through the lens of the dominant culture, which was predominantly white, and which, to be fair, can be for some an unrecognized ingrained bias. There I'm talking about liberals with good intentions who really honestly don't know that they're biased, but those folks I give a pass to because at least your heart is in the right place. Furthermore, the presumption of white superiority has played a role in this exclusion, as it was commonly believed that Black people had not contributed significantly and/or were not capable of doing so. The most egregious example of this negation or whitewashing of history is the deliberate mistelling the history of ancient Egypt. Now, Egypt was acknowledged as a Black African civilization by ancient scholars who studied there. As colonialism and slavery exploded after 1492, white academics reframed Egypt from a country that was recognized as Black African in origin in ancient times to a North African Mediterranean culture. In other words, non-Black. I remember as a 12-year-old sitting in class, this brings back memories, looking at a map, sitting in class, and having the teacher say, Egypt was not African. Well, I'm looking at the map. There Egypt is, smack dab in the middle of Africa. And the teacher's telling us that it was not African. Well, I was 12, but not that stupid. There was something wrong. But I think she was repeating what academics were telling, what she had read, because she was actually a very progressive person. But she was repeating, I think, the going thoughts at the time that it was not an African civilization. And the history of Egypt is key because the entirety of let me say that again. The history of Egypt is key because the entirety of ancient Western civilization, from philosophy, mathematics, science, medicine, religion, and yes, even belly dancing, originated in Egypt. Egyptian civilization sprung from Nubia, Sudan, in other words, sub-Saharan Africa. This has been proven not only by what can be seen simply by looking at statues of the pharaohs, hieroglyphics, and artwork, but by reading accounts of Mediterraneans who traveled there to study, but has been more recently verified by DNA. Indeed, Egypt was a diverse society with people from northern Africa, the Middle East, the Tigris-Euphrates area, etc., but Egypt was a wealthy country and traded, fought wars, etc. And like Rome, many people from the Mediterranean immigrated there and lived there, thus, merging into the population. But the culture, the language, the religion, math, sciences, and the arts, and of course mummification, came from the south, Nubia and Ethiopia and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Egypt, while the most well-known of the African civilizations, is just one of many. There were several great African empires throughout history, the kingdom of Kush, I've said this already, kingdom of Axum, Ghana, the Mali Empire, and these are ones I haven't said, the Songhai Empire, kingdom of Zimbabwe, the Benin Empire, the Oyo Empire. Each of these empires left a lasting impact on the history and culture of Africa, and their legacy can still be seen today. In Europe, there have been notable Black Europeans throughout history. And one example that I find amusing is Queen Charlotte of England. Now, she was royalty, and she was her father was Prince Miro of Germany, but her mother was descended from Margarita de Castro e Souza, a Portuguese noblewoman who had Moorish background. And when we talk about Moors, we talk about Arabs, Berbers, Sub-Saharan Africans, and others. So we can never really actually say exactly what her heritage was. But when you look at her picture, you see a Black woman, a light-skinned Black woman, but a Black woman. And I kind of look at the picture and I thought, I could take a tiara and put it on the head of my mother, and she would look like Queen Charlotte. But with that said, had Queen Charlotte lived in the United States, she would have been a slave. And that is just very, very amusing to me, and knowing that the British royal family is walking around with Black blood in them, or at least we think so, and I think there's very good evidence that that's true. Here at home, there are many great achievements in the fields of science and technology, mathematics, music, entertainment, architecture, literature, and of course sports, made by African Americans. As educated adults, we generally know that this is true, though we may not know specific names of everyone. We do know Blacks have contributed to this society in great ways. But everyone needs to know, if not specifically, at least generally, that every group of people have made significant contributions to the life in the United States. People should know about their history, and they should know something about the history of others as well. Knowledge of history helps promote a sense of pride, identity, and empowerment, and just plain knowledge. We all need to know about each other. It's the cultural differences that are interesting. And understanding the contributions that people have made throughout history can help boost self-image and esteem and help children deal with the challenges they may face as adults. History can also serve as a source of inspiration and motivation, helping young people envision their own possibilities and potential for making positive contributions to society. Now, honestly and ideally, I don't think it's particularly healthy for children to be taught Black history apart and segregated from the history of the rest of the world and presented kind of as the history of the other. We're put in that position now since we've been excluded from textbooks in the classroom. When you present Black history, it suddenly seems like it's coming from a foreign place, because who knew about these things? And it separates us and it segregates us yet again. But children don't need to be taught Black history as if Africa was somehow disconnected from Europe and the Middle East, just as I did as a 12-year-old. Look at a map. How far away is Sicily from Africa? Spain. Do we think that over the course of thousands of years, these geographical neighbors didn't interact? As Joe Biden used to say, come on. The truth is staring us in the face. Finally, I'd like to commend our wonderful children's educational coordinator, Ms. Strong. If more kids were being taught in the manner that we teach our kids, the world would be a better place. So thank you for hearing me out.
Well, we're going to sing 323, even though that was a lot to think about. Thank you, Bill, so much.
Break not the circle of enabling love.
I'm supposed to have closing words, but I forgot to get them. Bill, will you blow out the chalice for me? Thank you. And we'll have the postlude by Jay. Thanks.